Hey there, happy day 1210 of What Shipped You Now. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, documenting my journey as I transition from the brick and mortar business to the online business and a little bit back to the brick and mortar real world business of corporate America and owning my own businesses, different businesses in different industries offline. I've been exclusively online since 2017 and now in 2020, 2021, moving a little bit back and crossing over. I look at crossing over because I think that anybody with an offline business should have an online presence. And frankly, everybody with an online business, online presence, ought to understand and dabble in offline real world. I call it real world businesses because there's this whole interesting phenomenon that happens when you go online. And I didn't think it would be different, but it is actually very different. And I think that a lot of what happens in the digital online internet marketing world and the emphasis on marketing and sales is so strong that I think that a lot of new business owners, people that haven't had offline experience, focus so much on the marketing sales end that they really screw up, they really mess up when it comes to actually delivering a product or service that they say they're going to deliver. So one of my personal pet peeves. So I think that it's important to have components of both. I think you can take your digital creations, there's so many advantages to digital creation in the online world and the internet. I think COVID has proven that to a lot of us, that it's easy to just do that exclusively. And it affords us a lot of different things in our lifestyle. It is amazing to not have to go into the office every day. Now I'm sure I can hear the people screaming, "What are you talking about? COVID stinks. I haven't I gotta work from home with my kids." I understand all that, but there still are advantages. There are advantages not having to get dressed all the way, cleaned up, and going into the office. Now, if you're doing Zoom meetings and things like I do, I at least get my head and my top half dressed and fixed up and ready to go. Now, I may or may not still have my pajama bottoms on. You will never ever know. I'd like to do a poll and guess in the comments below what percentage of the time I get 100% dressed and what percentage of the time I do my online things half dressed. That would be a fun one. And then I'd actually have to figure out how often I do one or the other. Some people always get 100% ready and dressed and in their professional mode before they start doing their online business, their internet business, their Zooms and things. Others, super duper casual. I think that one thing COVID has done, believe it or not, for everybody is made it possible that anybody, anywhere, for the most part, can create online, can create an online business, can do business globally from the comfort or the discomfort of their own home. I have a comfortable home, so I'm cool with it. A lot of people are not comfortable working from home. I know when I was raising my kids, when I had my family, I was working in corporate America. I was one of those moms. I needed to work. I needed to keep going. I was home with my kids a few times, in terms of blocks of time during those years, but very rarely. And as much as I absolutely positively adore my children and my grandchildren, I still need some grown-up stimulation and interaction and some activity. So we're all different. Some people, my youngest sister, best mom on the planet, and she thrives on being a mom and working from home. She does creative things and amazing things that I couldn't even do in my wildest dreams. They're so awesome. So each of us have to figure out what works for us. Well, our challenges today, remember, I've got this 365-day annual challenge that I do every year. This is year 4. And this year it is to do one thing every day that centers you or me. I do it with respect to me, and the people that participate with it with me, they're doing it to center themselves, to figure out what's important to them, what makes them tick, what is core and central to their being. Because when we know that, it's really sad. The vast majority of the people, I always used to think that everybody thought, and I think people think that, especially when we're young and immature, that everybody thinks the way we do. We expect everybody to see things and believe things, and as we get more mature, we realize absolutely positively not true. Everybody sees things, the same things we're looking at, this magnifying glass. If I asked 12 people or 12,000 people or 12 million people to describe this magnifying glass, we would get a whole lot of different descriptions. We would probably get 12 million different ways of describing this magnifying glass. So when we get to more subjective things such as beauty, wisdom, good and evil, everybody has their own definition of those terms. Everybody has their own experiences that have caused them to first understand those each thing that happens to them, each experience, and then those experiences filter through and color everything else that happens to us from the time we had that experience on. So we're all walking, experience collecting organisms, and as much as we don't think things affect us, a lot of times on a subconscious level, things are affecting us for our entire life or for decades that we don't even consciously understand or are aware of. So I like to do an annual challenge. This one's all about getting to know myself better, getting more centered, more focused on what is important to me and how am I going to make sure I'm creating that in my life at all times. So today was I would call it a meditation. It's about breathing in and breathing out, and then going to a beautiful place and just breathing in and breathing out, paying attention to the senses, all the things around your senses, and being present in the moment for 10 minutes, and then sharing, where did you go and what did you feel? Did you feel any differently by making, and some of us, early on, I couldn't meditate for beans, and I've had to always come up with my own version of things. I don't know, like to make life more complicated than it has to be. So when it came to meditation and visualization, I struggled and struggled and struggled. And I used to, before my vision challenges, I used to think and be a very visual person. Visual things were important to me. And I've had to change that belief, given my failing vision. But, literally my failing vision, my eyesight. Those things and all those senses are still important to me. So it's important that I learned how to visualize in my mind, because even if you can't see with your eyes, you can always see with your mind. And what we see with our mind is as powerful if repeated with emotion. And I didn't make this up. All the gurus that came before would tell you the same thing. Real or imagined, they're equal in your experience. That's why practice is so important. Perfect practice, of course. If I practice something before I present it, if I'm going to do a speech or a presentation to a person, place, or organization, I am going to make sure that I practice and prepare so that I don't need a bunch of note cards and things. I do use notes sometimes. I write things in my book. I write things in my idiom that I share every day, because number one, I can't read them really very well, but it helps me to reinforce my understanding and learning. The physical act of writing things, whether it's, super readable or legible, like have you ever seen a doctor's signature? My kids and I all kind of write, my sister, not all my sisters, but one of my sisters and I, terrible, terrible handwriting. And so it's not about the quality of the handwriting, it's the act of writing and internalizing and using another sense to put something into our memories, our storage. So I like to write things down, whether I read them again or not. I have, probably, I don't even know how many notebooks at this point in my life. A lot of them got lost in my move last year, which makes me very sad. But I've never gone back and read any of them anyway, so I kind of laugh like, what difference does it make? But I think my life, if it's worth living, it's recording and learning lessons along the way from them. So today was in getting to know ourselves, do one thing every day that centers us, was all about just doing a present moment meditation, being present for 10 minutes in your life. If somebody would have told me I needed to meditate for 10 minutes every day when I was in my 30s, 40s, or even my 50s I started to, but in my 30s or 40s, I would have laughed hysterically because I was running through my life. I barely had 2 seconds to sleep, much less 10 minutes to meditate or take care of myself. But times have changed. We need to change and evolve. When we know better, we can do better. So with respect to centering myself, I know it's something that I can definitely be better at. And so I wanted to spend this year concentrating and being better, being a better human being. Who doesn't want to be a better human being? I don't know. Maybe some people, but I don't know any. So that was our challenge, our 365-day challenge today. I got this mug from my mom. She got my sisters and I all a mug with our first initial on it, and then she makes us take it home because she's already got a lot of stuff in her house. So she had them lined up on her counter when we went down to Texas a few weeks ago. And she was like, oh, make sure you take your cup home. And I'm like, I've been downsizing things, but it's still fun. I love it. So it matches my shirt today, so I thought I'm going to use my pretty cup today. I love my coffee's pretty cold at this point. So what was our idiom today? Our idiom today was up the top of one's head, or off the top of your head, which I have definitely used this expression a lot because I didn't talk about that today. I've used this expression a lot. To me, it's an integral part of business. When I am looking at a new project, a new idea, a new thing, I'll bounce the idea off a few people, and I don't want them to think or study or research it. I want them to give me their initial response. What is your initial response to this? Do you think it's crazy? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think it's worth more time and energy looking into it? Or it's just a waste of time? You know, it's been done 1,000 times before, and unless you have a unique, special way of doing it, don't waste your time and energy on that. Find a different project. So I like people that will improvise and can respond based on their experiences off the top of their head and give me their gut instinct. It doesn't have to be, and some things I do that with, a lot of things I don't. A lot of things I am still very much a planner. I will admit that at this point, usually in the beginning, I am a huge researcher, planner, organizer, figure things out, put a systems and put processes and procedures in place to make the results I want automatic. I just do that automatically now. It's built into my being. So when I start something new, all those steps have to happen until I figure out the result I want, and then I automate the processes that are required to get me the result that I want. Just, that's the way I operate. I didn't realize it until about 5 years ago, but I started to pay attention to what I do that gives me the results I want and what works for me, and that is an example of that. Now, I've been doing since early 2020 30-day Get Up and Go challenge, and it's just a challenge to kind of install that process in other people so that when they're faced with a change or a challenge, they automatically go through a 4-step process, which I like to call the SOAP framework, on this old bar of soap. And that process, then we practice it, we do it in every area or aspect of our life. I'm using 9 this year. Last year I did 7 key areas of our life, but I added 2 this year, primarily because they're areas that I want to focus on and get better this year. So as I'm doing the Get Up and Go challenge this year, instead of doing 7 areas and aspects of our life, which I have on this, I have at my feet instead of at my fingertips, the 7 areas. And then physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships. And this year I've added contribution was one of the originals. This year I added communication and confidence, because those are 2 foundational areas that underpin everything else, right? If we have confidence, and if we have the communication skills to share the information and just share things with people, that impacts all the other areas and aspects of our life. If we have a physical ailment and we can't communicate to our doctor, or we're too scared to talk to our doctor and ask questions about what symptoms we're having, we're not going to get a very good diagnosis, and we might continue to struggle longer physically than we would otherwise have to. Or a alternative health practitioner, etc., whatever works for you. If financially we don't have the ability or the confidence or the communication skills to understand and communicate our financial needs, or to sell and communicate to potential customers, then we're not going to have the financial resources that we need. We're going to struggle in that area of our life. Relationships, obviously, if we don't have the confidence to have a relationship or the communication skills to interact with other human beings, every area of our life is going to suffer, especially relationships. So I'm doing all those. Most of those videos, I'm going to say all of those videos at this point for the 30 days plus, are impromptu. They're off the top of my head. Why? Because I know that process is me. It's ingrained in my being. And so I don't need to plan and prepare and spend, hours and hours and hours putting together and delivering that particular challenge. Why? Because I've done it 7 times now, the 30+ day challenge. The first time I sat down and I mapped out the process, what I was going to talk about each day. And again, not verbatim, but the the key points I wanted to make, the key thing I wanted to share, and the action item I wanted to have people do, because once you learn something, if you don't do something with it right away, it's lost. 90% of the information that we absorb or read or experience is lost, and it isn't lost forever. It's lost inside our brain, our mind. It's lost in there, and we just have a hard time retrieving it. It's always there. Everything we've ever experienced is in our being somewhere. It's just, do we have the ability to access it? So I always want people to take an action and do something right away. So I, the first time, mapped out what are the key points, what are the things we're going to talk about, what is the action item, and then later on, about the third or fourth challenge, I started to share tools and strategies and techniques, but mostly tools that I had used throughout my life and still use today to get a certain result, to dig deeper, to actually do and implement and learn and understand better each of the areas of the SOAP framework. And so then I added tools, and now I'm to the point where I can get a topic and automatically it goes back in my memory banks in my brain, and I can retrieve that information, and so I know what tool to use each day. So practice and familiarity with our topic and our experiences increase our confidence in our ability to communicate off the top of our head. Boy, that was a long way of describing that, wasn't it? So that was our expression today, and I used that all through my career, my life, corporate, all the way back to my newspaper editor days in high school. We'd brainstorm, and to me, brainstorming is a huge example of people being impromptu, extemporaneous. Love that word. I forgot about it until today when I started looking for this particular idiom. Extemporaneous speaking. We used to have to do in speech class extemporaneous speaking. Now in comedy they call that improv, but we would have to do that. You'd be given a topic, and then you'd have to improvise and speak about that topic. That's what the idioms are to me. A lot of these idioms are a way for me to continue to increase my communication skills by getting a topic I know nothing about. A lot of these idioms I've never heard. Off the top of your head, absolutely positively heard and used this idiom, this expression throughout my life, and still continue to use it today. Hey, off the top of your head, what do you want for dinner? Off the top of your head, what do you think of these shoes? Off the top of your head, what do you think of this business idea, etc.? That means I just want your initial response, your quick, not studied, in-depth, detail-oriented research on a topic. I just want to know your gut instinct. What do you feel about this? And if it's a go, we'll look into it further and then decide along the way if it's still a go. So those are our two big pieces of content today. Today, day of rest. It's Sunday, and I slept in. I've slept way in today because I was hanging out with my granddaughter last night, and she is in this habit of between 2:30 and 3 in the morning is when she chooses to go to sleep. Well, I'm normally a morning gal and want to be up like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, but not when I go to bed at 4 o'clock. I think I went to bed at 3:45 this morning, and I, in the olden days, thought I could get by on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Probably wasn't very effective or functional, but I deluded myself into thinking that I was. Now I'm old enough to know better. Hey, if I don't get 6 to 7 or 8 hours of sleep, I just feel a little bit off my game. I don't always get it, but I strive to get a decent block of time of sleep. So that's it. I'm going to lay low today. We were hanging out with my aunts yesterday, and I did store an amazing book, the Familiar Quotations by, I don't even know who it's by John Bartlett. And this is actually the second version. The first version he did was in 1855. I doubt that he edited and redid this version. I think there were probably a whole team of people that did it. I love these book of quotes. I got this one from my Aunt Sharon and Uncle Bob, and the other one that I have like this is from my grandfather, my grandpa Hans Goldberg Horne, my dad's dad. And when he passed away, that he had hundreds of, I think he had 100,000 books or something. It was crazy. He had the whole basement of their house was a library, floor to ceiling bookshelves and books all over. It was crazy. It's like, you have the shows with the libraries, and I think of the library from, what was that show that was it Wizards? It wasn't Wizards. Anyway, it was some kind of magical show. Caught some of the episodes during the pandemic, and it reminds me of the library in that, where all the knowledge is stored in this magical place. But just tons and tons and tons and tons of books. And I had gotten a book of quotations from him, and now I've got another one. And the reason I wanted that is because I'm always looking for idioms and expressions and things to explore as a way to creatively keep my juices flowing with respect to how to grow and build my business, how to grow and build anybody's business. So I work with a lot of other business owners, and 2020 and into 2021 has given us a huge opportunity to think creatively and think differently about our businesses and our life. All right, that's all I've got today. If I can help you in any way, ask in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow. I have some secret projects and fun to work on today. Take care.